Do you ever just want some company in your life? Look no further! Today I will teach you how to make company. What up, tax fam? So, to save us the trouble of endlessly repeating myself in regards to how to set up a company in Australia, we've decided to shoot a video to explain this in great detail. If you want to set up a company because you've started a business as a sole trader and now it's grown quite a fair bit and you think it's a good time to move to a company, or maybe you want to start a new business and you would prefer it to be set up in a separate structure rather than your personal name for asset protection and tax planning purposes, then you're in the right place. However, if you're here for fun, mate, this is going to be very boring for you. Firstly, what is a company? A company is a legal entity formed that can operate a business in Australia. Companies in Australia are normally called Pty limited companies, and they're registered with ASIC. The most simple form of a business is a sole trader, which means the business is basically run through an individual and its name. In the company situation, on the other hand, the owners and the people who control the company do not have to be the same person. We have owners who are also known as shareholders, and we have directors and company officers who control the company. There are also company secretaries who can do the secretary work for the company as well. So a common question asked is, when should I set up a company for my business? It really depends on your situation, and it's best to consult an accountant before you set one up. If you have any questions about this, it's best to look at this video here. Here are a few circumstances where we would advise clients to set up a company for your business. You have assets in your personal name and you would like to protect these from your business. Your personal income is relatively high and would like the business to separate from your personal income. You have multiple businesses and do not want to mix the two together. You have investors and business partners and you want to show a clear structure of ownership and control between the investor and the partners. The company is normally registered by the shareholder and the director. You would require them to sign off on the forms and certificates, so it's a good idea to have them present in Australia when doing this. It's quite difficult to get signatures on forms if they're not based here. You can register a company through ASIC. It costs about $500 and it goes up every year. So if you do set it up for $500 with ASIC, it doesn't come with all the extra registrations and documents for your company, and you'll need to get them separately, which would then cost more money. If you want to set up a company properly with the right registrations, it's best to go through an accountant or a provider, so they can provide the right advice to you and set up the structure correctly. This would normally cost about $700 to $1,000. Also, you will need to pay an annual fee every 12 months to ASIC to keep the company registered. The annual fee right now is $273, and this goes up slightly every year as well. So what are the pros of setting up a company? Companies are taxed at 26%, which means that the tax is quite low when you compare it to the highest tax marginal rate of 45%. They are separate legal entities, so it can be used to protect your personal assets as well. Companies are highly preferred by investors as it shows a clear ownership structure, and the ownership can be transferred to another investor later on down the track. Generally, larger businesses prefer to deal with Pty limited companies rather than sole traders as well. For example, Amazon prefers to only deal with Pty limited companies rather than sole traders. But what are the cons? Companies are more costly to set up than sole trader businesses. The ongoing costs per year are also very high compared to a sole trader. The reporting requirements are more complex than sole traders as well, and it gets quite confusing if you're moving from a sole trader to a company. Alright, here's a quick checklist of the things you might need before you set up a company. Firstly, you obviously need a company name. Make sure you check on ASIC to see if the company is available to be used in the first place. You will need a registered office address for the company and also a place of business address. They can be the same address, but please note that this address can be found if someone pays for a search on ASIC. You will also need to provide the personal details of the directors and shareholders, such as their name, address, date of birth, and place of birth. For shareholders specifically, you need to provide the ownership structure of the company. And if the shareholder is a company, then you must provide details of that shareholder company as well. It is important for you to work out what each shareholder's rights are, and it also depends on the constitution. You can give shareholders the following powers: attend shareholder meetings, vote on key issues such as removing and changing directors, or receiving dividends and distributions from the company. So once the company is set up, you should have the following documents: a company registration certificate, a signed ASIC company setup form, share certificates showing the ownership of the shares, signed director shareholder minutes, and possible signed director shareholder letters. Company constitution. The company constitution is the rule book of the company. It basically states what the company directors and shareholders can and cannot do. It is important for you to keep these documents stored in a safe and secure place. Australian company number. This is a 9-digit number for ASIC to identify your company. And a corporate key. This is an 8-digit number that's like a PIN for your company information. You normally receive this in the mail after you've registered for the company. So make sure you keep the corporate key in a safe and secure place. Make sure you read over all these documents and sign and date the documents where indicated. You can also make changes to the shareholders and directors and constitutions, but it may cost you some filing fees later on down the track. The next steps after you've set up your company is you must register for certain registrations and insurances so you can start running your business. If you're running a business, you must set up the following: Australian business number. This is a number to identify your business with the ATO. You cannot run a business through the company without an ABN. A tax file number, TFN. This is a number to identify your tax reporting with the ATO and allow you to lodge your income tax returns for the business. You need this as well. Goods and services tax registration, that's GST. You must register for GST if you believe you'll earn over $75,000 a year in Australia. PAYG withholding, which is pay-as-you-go withholding. When you start employing workers or even paying the director, which could be yourself as well, you must register for PAYG withholding. After setting up your registrations, it's a good idea to set up a bank account with a bank as well. You should not be trading out of your personal account or individual bank account. You must be using your business bank account under the company's name. It's a good idea to consider the types of insurance you need for your small business as well. We did a great video about this, so I'll link it below, or you can find it out here as well. You will definitely need to set up workers' compensation insurance if you employ workers, and public liability insurance if you have a physical store or office. Another thing you need to think about is the written contracts. And what I mean by that is that written contracts are quite important, especially if you're dealing with third parties within your business. However, in most cases, it's not compulsory as well. So let me give you some examples. If you have an external investor, it will be a good idea to get a shareholders agreement in place. If you have employees, it will also be a good idea to have an employment contract in place to outline the responsibilities, conditions, and terms with you and your employee. Some industries will also have contracts in place with suppliers, contractors, and customers. You should speak to an industry expert or a lawyer about these agreements and determine which ones you might need for your business. Sometimes you might not need it at the early stages of your business, you might later on down the track. If you're not based in Australia, you can be a director of the company in Australia, but you cannot be the sole director of that Australian company. There must be at least one director who resides in Australia. For ownership, Australian companies only require one shareholder, and this shareholder can be a foreign person living overseas or a foreign corporation. Okay, that's all folks. Setting up a company isn't that difficult, and it's good to get it out of the way first. It's important to note that once you set up a company, the banks and other institutions will use that start date of that company as the start date of the business. Some institutions do not like to deal with companies and businesses that are relatively new in business. So sometimes it's a good idea to set up the company early on. We release tons of videos about business structures and companies, so please check them out here. We also have ebooks on our website. You can find our website on boxas.com.au. Alright guys, if you find this helpful, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to our channel for more helpful tips for accounting and how to run your business. And if you have any questions or you want me to cover any specific topic at all, leave a comment below. Thanks everyone, see you next time.